What up, YouTube? It's your boy Bosco the Shooter, and if you love B&T as much as I do, then you know that safety selector on the right-hand side hurts your finger a lot. We're gonna address that today in 5 minutes, something a chimpanzee could do with little tools. Before you start, you're gonna need a hacksaw blade, a sewing needle, a pointy tool like a scribe or whatever these are, sandpaper, 100 grit or slightly higher, an old pair of jeans or a carpet or basically any material you can polish the polymer with, tape so you can mask off the selector, and maybe a tray to catch the dust. Now before you start, you're obviously going to verify the gun is unloaded and then remove the lower. Once you have the lower separated from the upper, you're going to have it facing so that the right side selector is up. Then you're going to use the sewing pin to press down the detent through the tiny hole in the middle of the safety selector. When you slide the selector off, be careful to stop the detent from flying out as it's under spring tension. You can see it happen to me a couple times trying to film the video. And one more tip, when sliding off the selector, keep it in fire position. So at this point, you can either start modifying the selector or you can decide to take one of the two safety detents out to reduce the weight. I'll leave chapters in the comments so you can skip ahead if you plan on leaving your safety OEM. And I wouldn't recommend doing this for a service rifle, but if you're a gun enthusiast out there, well worth doing if you want a lighter safety and more reminiscent of an AR. With one detent, there's plenty of retention on the safety still, so it's not unsafe, it's just a lot lighter and nicer to use. To remove the detent, you're going to want to finagle the safety from the left side between fire and safe and put pressure on the column from the right side until it starts to push through the receiver. Now you're going to want to get your pointy tool. Use the point to put between the safety selector rod and the detent and hold the detent down while you're finagling the lever on the other side between safe and fire. It should just pop right out. These detent springs are not strong and they're not under retention, so they're not going to fly out like the selector spring. So if you accidentally pull the whole thing out, it's really easy. You can just put it back in, no stress. And to get it back in, you kind of just want to wiggle it around in between safe and fire and put pressure towards the receiver side while kind of guiding the rod through the hole on the other side of the receiver, and you're good to go. So that basically sums up the disassembly process and the reassembly process. Now let's get to modifying the selector. First, you can take the selector off to protect it from accidental sanding, and then you want to cut it down to the desired length. I usually cut about 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch off the very end, and then I cut a tiny little tab off the side, or you can just sand to profile, either way. After it's profiled, make sure it's smooth and even, and then rub it vigorously on an old pair of jeans or some old carpet or material you don't care about. It will stain. And if you really care what it looks like, get a Dremel and some polishing compound. And now, all you gotta do is install your new selector switch by adding the detent spring, the detent, and sliding on that selector. As promised, a custom, reduced weight B&T selector switch in under 5 minutes.